Many a strong player still waiting in the wings here for our round of 16, day number 2 for WCS Valencia, as they look for an opportunity to impress and move on through the bracket. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as I am joined here by the desk once again by Rotterdam, and we have Nathanius here as well, along for the ride. And
just keep asking me to be here, James. Like,
apparently you're really good at the desk.
What would we do without you, Roddy?
Is that a compliment or not? It's like, you know, you used to be pretty good at casting, but we really like you at the desk right now. It's
well,
like, okay.
You say that, but I got promoted to desk host, so...
you wanted that.
You just changed
Did I
it
want
now.
that? Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This desk does, in fact, have shackles, by the way.
It does, yeah. I can never leave. There's been many a
I can
tournament.
personally attest to that from last tournament.
Ah, that's true, yeah. You're doing well for me. I appreciate that, thank you. But Roddy, overall, what we've seen so far, good stuff from True. Next up, we have Nerchio going up against Stephano, a good old classic ZvZ.
Yeah, this is more than just a classic, in my opinion. These are two players that go back to pretty much the very beginning of StarCraft 2, 2010, maybe not so much yet, but 2011, they were there already. When I was sitting at the ESL office in Germany a long time ago, I was casting Go for StarCraft 2s, I was casting Stephano versus Nerchio, and obviously eventually they both pretty much became the best player in Europe at one point when it comes to Wings of Liberty. And there was a time that Stephano slowed down a little bit, early Legacy, that's where Nerchio really took off, and Nerchio suddenly became perhaps a bigger force than he's ever been. But I think for the longest time, Stephano was the best Zerg in Europe, and Nerchio was the second best Zerg.
Yes.
So this is a matchup where we can talk about WCS points, we can talk about this tournament, but there is a much bigger picture when you see these two go up against each other. And, you know, when I took a look at their Elysia leg head-to-head, I was like, I'm sure they've played a bunch of times, but I was like, I don't even remember that many encounters. And, you know, they've played against each other 12 series. The score is 7-5 in favor of Stephano. And 12 may sound a lot, but that's actually not a lot for two players that have been active since 2011.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we see like 32 against 29, you know, only 12 times.
You'd think
kind
they would
of rare.
Yeah, you'd think they would have played a lot more often.
Yeah, you would. I'll get your thoughts on this in just a few moments, Nathanius, as I believe Smix is ready for our Zerg versus Zerg. This one is a classic one, eh, Smix?
Definitely agree with you there, because the storyline, as you guys have been mentioning, is very interesting. We have last year's Valencia champion and top European player going up against a Stephano who has explicitly said he has given up partying in favor of preparing for this event. So is that sacrifice going to pay off, or will it be our Polish Zerg moving on to the round of 8? For our next match is Nerchio and Stephano.
Two strong Zergs from the European scene. Stephano previously calling himself quite easily the best foreigner in the world for a long time. Nerchio, for ages, has been Mr. Consistent throughout the entire history of StarCraft 2 and Nathanius. He's always been around and always been performing well.
He's always been a nightmare to run up against. And I mean, you mentioned it, Stephano, the legend himself. Been playing a lot more in these tournaments over the course of the last year and a half, picked up that Meltdown sponsorship, he's on with them, and he's been coming into these tournaments, and we've heard a similar theme from him, which has been, I want to look good again. I want people to respect me and not come into these tournaments and be like, oh yeah, he's just playing because, you know, he was able to get a flight over and he's not practicing as much. It's like, no, I want to come here, I want to make a good impression and win some hearts back.
It's a far cry from the days of the 12-minute Roach max out, though.
200 supply at 11 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It was.
That was actually messed up.
It was crazy. But, you know, StarCraft has moved on very far since then. The game is ever so heavily strategic, and Nerchio has stood the test of time more so than almost any other player on the planet.
Absolutely. You said it very well, Mr. Consistency. Nerchio has been a real dominant force in the foreign scene for the last year and a half. Ever since Legacy came out, he's been incredibly on point. Stephano had his ups and downs, but I said it earlier this tournament, I really mean that. I think this is the best Stephano we've seen in a very long time. He's been practicing like crazy. I think his mechanics look very clean. You look at his stream and you're like, he's fast. I mean, like, Nerchio streams a couple times as well. And I really think when it comes down to pure speed, Stephano might actually have one up on Nerchio. But Nerchio has something else going for himself, and that is that he's not only a master in engagements, which Stephano is to some degree as well, don't get me wrong. They've always been both very... I get excited. I don't get excited over ZvZ very often, guys, but this to me feels like that one Rocky movie, you know, where the two guys were supposed to fight each other, but they never did, and then eventually there was a video game, and they're like, all right, we're still going to make this fight happen because we really want to know who would have won. fun. That's kind of what this feels, because I feel like this is the matchup that we should have had so much more, but we almost never got. And now Stephano is really good again. Like, I think this is one hell of an exciting ZvZ. I really mean that.
This is our StarCraft 2 version of Mayweather versus McGregor, no?
No, it's like Mayweather-Pacquiao, you know? It happened like 5 years too late, but it's still really cool. Like, and now we just hope it's actually going to be really cool.
Now you just got to hope that it delivers. I mean, both players, I think we know they're definitely capable of pulling up some mind game type plays. Creative strategies are definitely on the table here. And I mean, it's ZvZ, right? So anything goes.
Yeah, and the European scene is a scene where there is a lot of strong Zergs. We used to tout both of these players as extremely strong Zerg versus Zerg players, but there's people like a Laser there that are pushing these guys to the version. In fact, Nerchio's had a bit of a hard time against people like a Laser in Challenger, etc. But when it comes to these tournaments, he has performed well in Zerg versus.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously, like, I love Stephano, and I really want to give him credit for how much better he has become again. But I still think there's a small difference between, like, Saroy, Laser, and then maybe Stephano. But I do think Stephano is closing in, and this is, like, the ultimate test for Elias, that old superstar that, you know, we all still love, and we're so happy to see him at events because his interviews are straight up fire. Like, you know, there is never not an interview from Elias that doesn't make you smile. The way that he speaks is just, it's going to be great. It's going to be real fun.
I have to echo that sentiment. We have a lot of very good players that have been coming up in the last year or so, and some of them need to step up that interview game.
Yes.
It is nice to see Stephano on a stage and spit some hot fire.
Yeah, I just want people to come out and say, I'm actually going to kill him. Yeah. That's just how it is. I'm going to kill him.
I'm waiting for Deep to get a mic drop moment, you know?
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Well, eventually there may be. It may just be, well, you know, I'm just going to kill everybody, but we'll see.
I think this is going to be like the ultimate tango of ZvZ, where it comes down to both players that are so incredibly good in setting up engagements for themselves, and they know exactly how they want to fight, that it's going to be a very odd little dance, because they both know how they're supposed to engage and not supposed to engage. That if we get any sort of an even scenario where they both have like 120 supply plus, I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And I just wonder, because I have the feeling that it's going to spin around each other, and it's going to be like kind of awkward, like who's going to make the first move, you know?
For me, Nerchio stands out as not only Mr. Consistency throughout the entirety of StarCraft 2, but also, I would say, in Zerg versus Zerg, when he approaches the matchup. When he went up against a Laser in Challenger, sometimes he would say that a Laser was a gambler, just kind of going for those early builds and trying to beat him out. But Nerchio thrives for the late game. He wants to get to the late game and show his power there.
I mean, we see more than enough comments from him, right, on his stream or his social media about certain strategies now. With that. I like Kevin's dancing analogy, because Stephano is a man known for those smooth moves in and out of the game. Sure. I expect him to kind of be. I think these are two players that should be able to go very well together.
They should have a similar style, right?
They're great dancing partners.
I'd be sad if we see a bunch of 12 pulls and a bunch of Ling Bane all-ins, because that's not supposed to happen.
No. Right.
Two old rock stars, let them duke it out late game, and may the best man win.
All right, well, thank you very much, boys. Check in with you in just a little bit. It's time for now. It's time for our Zerg versus Zerg. Stephano goes up against Nerchio.
Thank you very much, James. We are excited to hop into this Zerg versus Zerg. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined by Pig. How are you feeling about this, Pig?
Oh, I am excited. We're going to get some good Zerg versus Zerg action. I love the way we already put that, you know, these two legends of the StarCraft scene battling. And, you know, it's a match we haven't seen that much. There's only been one time they played recently, I say recently, a year ago in the last couple of years. So it's going to be a very exciting match. And spawning down here in the bottom right-hand side of Ascension to Ire, representing Meltdown Esports, it is Stephano. I really want him to win just so we can see another one of those Stephano interviews.
I'm with you. But up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the red Zerg player. Give it up for Euronics Gaming, Nerchio.
Rocking the Red Bull hat as always, looking calm and collected there. Nerchio with a little bit of banter you caught there in the chat before the game, Ravi. What was that he was saying that Coca, the observer, would have to be very quick to catch Zerglings in 9 spots at once?
Yeah, 9 spots at once. I mean, Nerchio is known for setting up tons of amazing engagements. I feel like that if there's a superpower that Nerchio has, it is being able to take amazing engagements and getting full surrounds and be able to set out a ton of different attacks and all kinds of different angles. But I'm really excited for this because Nerchio, of course, a lot of people look at him, big favorite to potentially win this tournament. He almost took WCS Austin earlier this year, but one of the other big things that he ended up taking first in was 2016 Valencia.
Yeah.
Came out the victor of that.
He actually had a really impressive finals right here against Uthermal last year. Had the pleasure of casting that series, and that was sorry, was it Uthermal? Was it? No, it was Marine Lord. Sorry. My memory failing me for a second there. Of course, it was right after that tournament in Shenzhen or Shanghai, sorry, where Uthermal did pick up his championship. Getting the Terrans crossed around in my mind a little bit. Of course, that was unfortunately Marine Lord's last big event in StarCraft 2. Did retire after that, but it's been a lot of fun. Of course, Nerchio, I mean, he's been probably the most consistent Zerg this year, wouldn't you say?
I would definitely say he is in contention for that for sure. I mean, King Archer earned his name as the king for a very good reason. Getting, of course, again, second at WCS Austin to Neeb, but round of 16 at WCS Jönköping as he ended up getting knocked out by a Petit, I believe it was Semper or Petit Drogo, one of the two.
Drogo, yeah, he took him out there with that 3-0, and that was a very big upset there. Of course, Drogo, though, you know, he's a little bit hot and cold recently. We've seen him play some fantastic series. Unfortunately, True got the better of him in that last one, but this is a completely different ball game. You don't see Nerchio complaining too much on Twitter about the balance in this matchup as opposed to Protoss. So it's going to be a Zerg versus Zerg, and both players playing very straight up so far. And this is what I love to see. You know, there's no real benchmark for how these players match up against each other, but there's one thing I look at, and it's how they both played last time they faced off against Serral. They both lost 0-3 the last time they played against Serral, but it was always close games. They always tried to play solid macro builds, and Serral just kind of barely edged them out in each match. So these guys should be a very good match for each other right now.
Yeah, Nerchio has a lot of Lings already out on the map. Obviously, we saw those 6 Lings early on, but now also popping up to 12, whereas we end up seeing that Stephano only sitting around on 8, so there's going to be a potential for Nerchio to really catch Stephano off guard and maybe get a little bit of damage done. So finally, we're going to see Stephano reacting. He's going to have Queens out on the defense, so this really shouldn't be a big game-ending thing, but a third expansion could end up getting a fairly low on health.
I like this play from Stephano. He's so confident defending these fast third bases. He's going to be bringing extra queens over here as things get more exciting, more banelings morphing in. Whereas Nerchio, he's taking an aggressive stance, only on 2 queens. He hasn't built the extra queens, so he's relying on keeping Stephano on the back foot because he really has no defense at home.
All right, Baneling getting targeted fire down over there, but Nerchio finding a nice opportunity is going to go straight into the natural, killing off a queen. Baneling in the middle of the map, getting not so much damage done, but now these Lings for Nerchio getting on top of the drones. Oh, that's a good Baneling hit.
Now, a lot of those Zerglings of Stephano's going down here. Nerchio running amok in these bases, getting a couple of worker kills. Nothing game-ending, but behind that, he's droned up a little bit. He's got a 5 worker advantage. He's keeping Stephano back in his corner of the map. And I mean, Stephano, he's confident defending, but I don't think he wanted to take this much damage.
Yeah, you really want to make sure that you're in a good position moving out into the mid-game stage in a ZvZ. You never want to be too far behind because even a 6 worker difference can make an enormous difference when you start going out into roaches and such. But, well, we don't see a roach one coming out just yet. Ooh, some good Baneling hits over there for Stephano, going to even things up by a good bit.
Oh, fantastic hit there. Intercepts those Zerglings as they change direction. And it looks like this attack fizzles out. Nerchio losing a bit of ground here. Will have to fall back, but no! More Banelings coming in. Both players trading blows here. And, oh, if Nerchio can get that queen, that's going to be very nice. The Baneling there just protecting his Zerglings for long enough. Nerchio snipes the queen down. And Nerchio, I mean, he is in the driver's seat. He's keeping Stephano back on his side of the map. He's got upgrades behind this. Gas is on the way. Stephano is just struggling to catch up in the work account. And finally, for the first time in this match, is pushing back over to Nerchio's side of the map.
Yeah, it's exactly what you were saying before, that we just keep seeing these great opportunities for Nerchio to edge out the drones. And Stephano's been trying to do the same, but Nerchio just seems to be getting a few more drones out every so often. He's still maintaining that 6 worker lead, but here we go. Lings chasing after a couple of Stephano's. Stephano's actually going really far down onto the south side of the map, trying to find these Lings for Nerchio, but he's just going to let them run into the natural. Where's Stephano's links going?
A little bit of a blunder. Stephano trying to intercept those reinforcements will lose a queen because of that mistake. Nerchio trying to run into multiple bases. The banelings of Stephano are there. No massive damage being found, but Nerchio just being very annoying here while he gets further ahead on those upgrades back at home. He's still got that 7 worker advantage, and it's about to get even bigger. More banelings coming in on the surprise on the north side. Big detonations down in multiple areas all over the place. And I mean, you might not be killing every single drone, but oh, here we go. 7 worker kills. Look at the worker differential there. Nerchio showing his class in these Ling Bane battles, Ravi.
I mean, he is one of Europe's finest in terms of ZvZ, and you can even see that it's not just the worker differential. He's about even on army supply, so the counterattack potential for Stephano is not actually going to be that high unless he just completely out-micros Nerchio. But we do have a couple of banelings alive for Stephano. We'll see what he can make work. A couple of links swinging into the 3rd expansion, but Nerchio's prepared with a couple of banelings of his own.
Oddly enough, Nerchio's got +1 range finish. Doesn't even have a Roach Warren yet, but he is just content to continue fighting these Ling Bane skirmishes. Grabs a queen, grabs a bunch more drones, and this is way out of control now for Stephano. You know, choosing to play the defensive side of this early game, especially on a map like Ascension to Aya, where your 3rd is so spread, it's such a tough decision to make. And Stephano, it turns out, just wasn't quite good enough to pull it off. Here we go, Nerchio ripping him apart here with these Ling counterattacks, and really, this is all but over right now.
Yeah, I mean, Stephano is doing his best to hold on for dear life, but realistically, the GG is going to get called out, and Nerchio takes game number 1.
Big decisive game there from Nerchio. I did not expect it to go that way, but seeing Stephano take up that defensive stance, I think he was really blindsided that first time Nerchio got on the aggressive. He kind of split into multiple bases, and I think from that moment onwards, Nerchio realized he had an edge. He kept pushing that aggressive advantage. He kept fighting in multiple areas. Stephano was just always one step slightly behind him, and I got to say, when you're trying to defend with just like, what, a queen at your natural, a queen at your 3rd, a couple of Ling Banes, that you can't afford any mistakes at all, and Nerchio just ran away with that game. So Stephano's going to need to be a lot tighter in game number 2 if he wants to bring this series back.
Yeah, you know, I was privileged to watching a bunch of Nerchio's games in a tournament called Ladder Heroes, which is something that Blizzard sponsors, where I get to see Nerchio constantly duke it out versus Serral and Snoot and all these other amazing, great Zerg European players. And Nerchio's games in the most recent Ladder Heroes monthly finals was just constantly, every single game, getting on the aggression, just out microing his opponent and really putting on a bit of a clinic. So I feel like just continuing forward with that, even though we always traditionally think of Nerchio as being able to get these great late game surrounds and everything, I think his micro in the early game for ZvZ is just so on point. He can continue to just play the same style.
It really is incredible, just the level of skill that is required to control those battles. Of course, Stephano there, I think just getting ready for a little bit of a bathroom break, putting his shoes back on. That's something, you know, every player has their own little interesting things that keep them comfortable. You want to kind of get your setup going. Quite a few players like to kick their shoes off, wear some slippers into the event.
What's your thing, Pig?
For me, I like to wear very comfortable track pants usually. And in the later days of competing, you know, you'll see Snoot and a few other guys as well. You know, really comfortable pants. Some people like to put the hoodie up over their eyes.
Oh yeah.
For me, it's mostly about the settings and like the obsessive keyboard position, obsessive mouse and mouse pad. And you know, that always makes the big difference. Just having everything exactly the same way it is at home. Have you ever like played when you're just on a monitor that's like 4 inches different?
Oh, it's miserable. It's terrible. I used to have to do that whenever I'd back in school, I'd play in the CSL.
Oh yeah.
And we'd have to play on these lab monitors, and like, oh, everything is just wrong. Everything is just absolutely wrong. It can be very frustrating, especially when you're very sensitive like these pros. So of course you want everything absolutely perfect. But by the way, big shout out to Coca. I feel like he did a good job. He lived up to Nerchio's expectations, keeping track of all of the harassment that was going on.
I love it when a bit of banter comes to play out in the game like that, because, I mean, maybe not 9 places at once, but definitely 3 or 4 places. Ling Bane battles all over the place, and this really is such a masterful battle of attention. I really just love watching the Ling Bane fights because it's so much about where the players' attention are. It isn't simply about, you know, this unit beats that unit or this individual piece of micro. It's how that fits into the whole. It's when are the players finding the time to squeeze in their lava injects? They need to pop back to their hatcheries every 30 seconds to do that. When are they finding the time to build the overlords and build the units? If you see a lesser player, you'll see them getting supply blocked during these micro fights. But but here, we have dinosaurs cheering us on.
Oh, what a great meme. I mean, that is pretty meme-tastic.
That outdoes the old horse mask that everyone used to bring down to different.
Yeah, you know,
sporting
that's
events and
been
stuff.
done, overdone.
Yeah.
I like that guy's creativity, and we'll see if Nerchio is going to be able to take Stephano on by the horns.
Yeah, I mean,
this
Nerchio, I mean, we've been saying it could be a close match. They're both very good. Nerchio definitely was the favorite coming into this. I mean, you look at the Aligulac, and it was almost 80% prediction for him to win. He does have quite a higher rating in the Zerg vs. Zerg matchup. I think it's almost 400 rating higher.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Stephano there, you know, it's one of these things where if you give up a little bit of ground, you put the onus on yourself to defend, you do make things very hard for yourself. If things start to slip, it gets worse.
Yeah, you actually did a really great daily where you talked about how in ZvZ you want to be the aggressor because exactly like you were saying before, not only do you get to, you know, continue to put on the pressure, you get to pick off queens, you get to pick off drones, but that also means that you're the one setting the pace of exactly what you were saying. You want to find the opportunity to move back, get your own larva injects done, and if you're the one being aggressive, you determine what exactly that time period is going to be.
Hear that knowledge. I hope Rotterdam's out there listening. You know, he should be listening to a few more of my dailies. Maybe you could learn a little bit more about
maybe you should listen to some of his dailies because I don't know if you remember what the score was in that caster tournament.
That's all right. You know, sometimes you gotta give the kids some scraps. Yeah, it's all good. But definitely Zerg vs. Zerg, you know, the knife fight in the phone booth. We've also, yesterday, what was it? Apparently Terran vs. Terran is the knife fight on a tripwire or a high wire or something like that.
Yeah.
But really, I think this is the most action-packed matchup. It's one a lot of players struggle with because the fast pace is so taxing on your mechanics and on what you're focusing on. And it's interesting to see we've reached this point where players have just embraced the fact that in Legacy of the Void, you can get that third base so quickly. So
absolutely.
Outside of those kind of gasless wall-off builds where you tech up really fast, you need to be aggressive. You can't afford to just build a spine crawler because it'll only defend one of your bases, not the other. You know, the player who has the mobility is usually the player with the advantage, and I'm very curious to see if Stephano just comes into this, adjusts one or two details and plays the exact same style, or if he's going to play vastly different and bring out something cheeky, because we've talked about Stephano a lot yesterday in his games. If there's a weakness of him, sometimes he's a bit overly defensive and he just wants to play that macro game. And I think in this matchup, we've seen players like a Laser show how powerful and scary you are if you're going to pull out some cheesy all-ins.
Yeah, you know, Stephano, we talked about how he hasn't really been getting as many results in ZvZ, but I do wonder if it's maybe better for him to try and take it toward that later stage of the game. There are some maps where you can do kind of wall-offs and try and tech up a little bit faster and everything, delay your third, so maybe that'll be an option, but on this next map, Odyssey, I don't know if it's going to be as viable of a situation. We're going to be hopping in, introducing the players as we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue Zerg player, give it up for Meltdown Esports' Stephano.
An awesome player with such a history in the game and an awesome team as well. Had the pleasure of going to a lot of the Meltdown Esports bars. Great chain of places to enjoy events. And up here in the top left-hand side, representing Euronics, it is Nerchio.
And of course, the winner of this is going to go on to face off versus a Laser and Haas. So whoever that wins that particular series, which will be the one coming up after this, I believe. But I think a lot of people are favoring a Laser in that. So this is actually potentially going to be a really good series for a Laser to be watching, see what Nerchio or Stephano potentially are going to be doing in this.
Yeah, there were a few people out there when the bracket came out for the round of 16 saying, oh, Terran versus Terran, Protoss versus Protoss, oh, these players are getting eliminated. It's the same for the Zergs as well. This is the Zerg half of the bracket, and these guys are going to have to be really good to go through this.
Well, I'm not quite sure. That was an interesting chat from Stephano. Nerchio just saying GLHF and Stephano just saying yes. I acknowledge that this is, in fact, what you've said. You will need the luck.
You know, back in the day, Stephano would always say, good luck, have fun, and he'd say the name of the player he was playing every single time without fail. But a little bit of a departure here. You know, he did say he's been cutting off his social life a little bit. Maybe he's forgotten how to interact with humans because he's been practicing so hard recently with those blinds
down. He's been playing an insane amount of StarCraft lately.
Oh, yeah, and he's really good mechanically as well. Like the creep spread, unfortunately, that's not going to help him out too much in Zerg versus Zerg, but...
it's not versus Daishi, though.
Well, that was pretty sick. And, of course, he made the comeback versus Iaguz. It wasn't on the mainstream, but it was broadcast yesterday. after losing to him 0-2 initially in that round of 32. So a lot of grit here in both of these players.
We are seeing a couple of lings being made over here for Nerchio. Once again, just getting out the 6 lings to, I believe, Stephano's 4 lings once again. And this allows you to, again, put that pressure on your opponent's 3rd expansion. Just force them to make a few more lings than they really wanted to, and potentially send some queens over a bit earlier.
Zero fear from Nerchio. Because I believe he'd spotted the 2nd Overlord. He may have. Either way, he didn't scout at all for any 13-12 Zerglings on the south side. He's just hidden his 6 Zerglings, sent them around the north side of the map. Meanwhile, Stephano, a little bit on autopilot, was scouting more for the 13-12, playing very safe. And now his 3rd base has just gone down, and the Zerglings are going to catch him off guard. They're going to be able to get the cancel, Ravi.
Oh, the hatchery is so early on in building. It just does not have that many hit points left over, and Stephano is not even going to be pulling back with these lings. I mean, it's a little bit too late, and I think he knows it. So as it starts to fall, we're going to see the cancel. The drone may even end up losing its life in exchange for trying to do it, but Nerchio, on the other hand, he's going to be taking a bit of damage, but he has the lings ready to react. This drone is just on an odyssey. It's on a journey after its failed attempt.
Yeah, he's probably going to go take that gold base maybe afterwards to try and bring this back. A lot of Ling Bane on the way here for Stephano. Nerchio already taking a very nice little advantage in this early game by canceling that hatchery. Stephano now has a lot of pressure on him to make something happen. He's trying to get control of the middle of the field here, trying to get those Banelings morphed on Nerchio's side of the map. He now has a staging point. His own 3rd is rebuilding right now, but Nerchio has a 5 worker advantage and just going to run these Zerglings around, just pulling Stephano away from Nerchio's base.
And Nerchio catching a couple of those lings that Stephano got a bit too overeager with. Going to be moving into that 3rd expansion, but also segmenting off 1 or 2 lings over to the natural. No, ends up pulling those back. The Banelings for Stephano look like they're set up to be more aggressive, moving across the map, but they're really encountering some of these lings for Nerchio. 2 for 1. Not exactly the best trade for Stephano so far.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, Ravi. Things are definitely going in Nerchio's favor. We don't even need to call on any Todd memes in order to point that one out. You can just see all these trades going in Nerchio's favor. A couple of nice little hits here and there. He's keeping Stephano on his side of the map, and that is exactly what went wrong last game for Stephano.
Well, there are a lot of Banelings over here for Stephano. If he can just continue to micro his heart out, he may be able to turn the tides. ZvZ is a knife fight, and you only need 1 good jab to turn things around. But, Nerchio getting the first big jab, going after that queen. He's going to be able to get it, but last inject does go off at least.
I love the way whenever Nerchio's Zergling count is outnumbered, he simply runs behind the minerals just so they last longer. Using those choke points between the minerals, he's occupying the Zerglings of Stephano for a few seconds longer, and that buys him time to get this next attack in there.
And as you say it, we see it happen once again. The Lings buy a little bit more time, and more Lings and some more Banes come rolling on in. Those Banelings want to avoid getting hit. But 3 more Banelings starting to be morphed in for Stephano. He does have 2 out on the map somewhere, but they're not at his front door right now, which is really where he needs them.
Stephano is hanging on very impressively right now. He does manage to, though, get a massive Baneling hit there. A lot of those Zerglings went down, and Nerchio, he's just keeping this aggression on so hard. Stephano's in a lot of trouble right now, barely hanging on for his life, and Nerchio is droning every now and then. In the middle of this, he's kind of going some Zerglings, some drones, and you can see he's just getting more and more ahead.
It's exactly what we were talking about. Just being able to find those small little instances where you say, I don't actually need this one individual piece of larva. I'm okay without. And he's able to continue to build up that lead further and further as long as this aggression goes on. Nerchio's only going to get more and more ahead.
Oh, these Zerglings just running circles around Stephano right now. Those two trying to find a corner of the base to hide in. Morphing into some sneaky Banelings, but not quite able to get
that's a lot of Banelings and a decent number of Lings. And finally, Stephano is getting a chance to move further out to the map. He's no longer defending his base. He's at least taking it to the center of the map on some more even territory. But good.
Nice
Actually,
hit.
that's a really good hit, and that's going to allow Stephano to continue being aggressive.
Good hits in return from Nerchio, though, as well. Both players taking some trades. Stephano got the lead in the middle, but definitely on the other side of the map, Stephano took the better trade. And I mean, Stephano's doggedly fighting through this, but the Roach Warren's done. +1 range is on the way, the Lair's on the way. If Nerchio can just defend this attack, then he is way up.
Yeah, the roaches are going to be popping very, very shortly, and once they do, those combined with some of those lings or even just some of the remaining banelings for Nerchio should be able to fairly easily clean up any of these attacks from Stephano at the front line. Now, maybe there's a chance for Stephano to do some kind of roundabout attacks, still try and get some damage done by just abusing the mobility of his army, but his own Roach Warren is finally coming on up, and it's just going to be so difficult for him to catch up with such a big worker deficit.
Yeah, he's down in the units as well and getting surrounded. Nerchio finds yet another great trade up there in the north side of the map. Takes the advantage there, and this just once again pulls Stephano's units home. That's what Nerchio wants. He wants time for those upgrades to finish. He's just adding on more and more roaches. These Zerglings just running circles around Stephano right now. He even pulls back a single Zergling there. Stephano's Zerglings were on A move, so they chased that one Zergling. Such a cute move from Nerchio. And that actually allows him to get 2 drone kills. Very well done.
Nerchio is just so on point. He is so experienced with the early game stages of ZvZ, playing against the monsters like Cyril, playing against the monster like Snoot, that he just has all of the potential micro engagements going in his favor.
Oh yeah, it's just these little things he continues to do, and this is something he can afford to do. He's got the APM, he's got the attention, because Stephano has not been able to put any pressure on him. And when Nerchio doesn't have any pressure on him, he is a master of these battles. The Ling Bane skirmish is continuing here. Nerchio looking for these angles, looking for where he can fight. He's got a good number of roaches, and Stephano going for a desperate Baneling morph. He hasn't seen the roach count yet, and upon seeing that, he's going to know this is an all-in attack. He's got to break Nerchio right now, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. There's so many units here. The Baneling hits are good, though.
Yeah, and the Ling's actually getting on top of a lot of Nerchio's roaches, but oh my god, the full surround, there's no escape from this as the roaches of Stephano desperately trying to run out of here, but the Lings get the full wraparound. And all of these roaches, or a majority of them, are going to end up falling. Nerchio taking a massive supply lead with a +1 weapons. Everything is going his way, Pig.
Oh no, things are definitely not working out here for Stephano, and it looks like the roaches of Nerchio are going to be the ones to win out there. Stephano, of course, a dogged competitor, will not be dropping out of the game just yet. He's going to try to defend this attack. He's making more Banelings at home, hoping for some magic hits. He's got some Zerglings. He's trying to get out a few more roaches, but this is not going to work against +1 roaches with that speed upgrade. Look at these roaches. They tank those Baneling hits to the face. They don't even care right now. A couple of roaches trickle in from behind, but it's not enough. GG. Nerchio taking the 2-0 lead.
Oh, what a massive lead right now for Nerchio. King Arthur, unfazed. His face just says, as expected, as it should be.
He's like, you know, that's Nerchio in a nutshell. He's like, well, you know, I'm a great player. I know I can do this. Just got to do what needs to be done. And I really don't feel he's been forced out of his comfort zone once this series. You know, Stephano is such a fantastic player. He has such understanding and faith. Sometimes, even when something's not working out for him, he knows it's just a few details that aren't quite being connected, and he will try and force that. But I think here, definitely, that all comes back to those 6 Zerglings. You know, maybe his game plan there was to change a few little things, but he was not expecting those 6 Zerglings. Suddenly, his 3rd base gets cancelled. He's thrown off a little bit. He's a bit distracted. 1 or 2 good skirmishes from Nerchio, and then the rest of the game is on Stephano's side of the map. He's trapped in that same corner as game 1.
And I think it's so frustrating in one of these situations because there are different ways to lose a game, Pig. I mean, there are some times where you just get caught off guard and you say, oh, you know, I didn't know that was coming. That's okay, move on to the next game. It's fairly easy. You know, you just say, oh, well, it was a little bit unlucky, I took a risk. But I feel like in these games, Nerchio has just been taking every single win in every single small little way, whether it be the cancel at the 3rd, whether it be all the little bling micro and everything. And when you're losing on all of these small little trades, it's demoralizing to an extent.
I totally agree. I mean, you can see on Stephano's face, he's trying to stay focused up there. He's trying to kind of keep himself calm and collected here. But it is demoralizing because it's not just, oh, the build order, you know, loss happens. It's like, yeah, there was something sneaky which surprised him. But all that did was give Nerchio a big momentum boost. And then Nerchio got to just punch him over and over again with those Zergling attacks. And that feels really bad. It's one of those games where you feel like you're just getting pulled left, you're getting pulled right. You feel like you're getting dragged apart. And it's just one of the worst feelings in a competitive match, especially up on a stage like this with so much money on the line. And yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I think we can at least count on from Stephano is that he is a tried and true champion. He has experience behind his belt. Even if he has not been as competitive as he used to be back in his heyday, I would still say that, you know what, if there's someone that can bring this back and not let this phase him too much, it's Stephano. I think he's got an opportunity to do it, but we'll see if he can pull it out and turn things around as we hop on a Blood Boil.
And spawning up here in the top left-hand side of Blood Boil, representing Meltdown Esports, it is Stephano.
And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Zerg player from RO16 Gaming. Give it up for Nerchio.
The captain, as Stephano has called him just there. He said, good luck, have fun, captain. In a bit more of a Stephano-esque style that we're used to, of course. Blood Boil here. No longer having that gold base. We're not going to have to worry about any fast hatchery first on the gold shenanigans from either player. And indeed, it looks like we're going to be seeing a gas pool opening for Nerchio. So a very safe and potentially aggressive opening from Nerchio once again. Stephano, third game in a row, going for the hatchery first. Really showing he likes this style. He wants to commit to this, and we're going to have to wait in just a few seconds if we see a gas or not. It looks like he might be skipping out and going for a gasless build. We'll have to see, of course. It's already slightly late for a gas to be going down, but yeah, he's definitely skipping that gas now. So, Stephano, looks like he's going to wall off the front and play that faster tech into Roach style that we were talking about earlier, and this is a good change-up.
Yeah, this is maybe going to allow him to avoid a lot of those big Baneling skirmishes and potentially avoid just how Nerchio has been pulling him apart from so many different angles, because I think one thing that I always think about when I think about Stephano is I think about his late game play. I think about his epic Roach armies. I think about how he gets to do all these crazy things that almost innovate the meta in a lot of ways, and he, as he used to, but only at a point where he actually gets the economy, gets into the tech, gets into using the tools he has available later on.
Absolutely, not always the cheekiest player. I think, and that's something which we've seen kind of missing from his Zerg vs. Zerg, but here we see something a little bit cheeky economically, going for a very fast third hatchery in the back of Stephano, and a Baneling nest already on the way for Nerchio. So this is something where it's most likely going to see a whole bunch of Zerglings start up after that drone in production for Nerchio. Keep your eye on that production tab, because if there's a lot of Zerglings coming in, no more drones, never mind. I was going to say he would have to have a really quick wall off with Evo chambers at the front to defend a Ling Bane Flood, but I have a feeling that Nerchio is just going to do a very light Zergling poke and not really commit any more than that.
Yeah, it is going to be pretty difficult to really do too much. Of course, we see that Nerchio hasn't really scouted too much of exactly what Stephano's up to. In fact, he hasn't actually moved into the third or the natural or anything of the sort. So it's going to be a little bit while longer. He's going to make a few of these Lings and actually making a few Banelings. So maybe just getting ready to put on a bit of a light early aggression. But we'll see how much more he commits to this if he's going to go fully on this aggression.
Stephano knocking down these back rooks. He does have a spine crawler and 4 queens about to be out. So I think Stephano should be very fine if it's not an all-in. Oh, the spine gets cancelled, but he's seen the Zerglings move out just after he cancelled the spine. He's kicking himself right now. Stephano, he's got to drop down those emergency evolution chambers. He's got to get those queens behind it in the wall. Will this be enough to hang on? This is not an all-in attack, but Nerchio, he's trying to bust through this wall, committing a lot. He's losing a lot of Zerglings. Stephano holds. Good defense.
Yeah, really, really solid defense. And now that the evolution chambers are starting to finish up, he's going to be able to eventually transfuse those with the queens if he has the entry for it. It looks like Nerchio is going to try and get a little bit cheeky and go to the backdoor rocks, but you mentioned this before. They've already been knocked down. Stephano's on top of this.
You know, interestingly enough, he is dropping down another spine crawl, and he built a lot of extra slow Zerglings, so Stephano maybe a little bit unassured with how he dealt with that. I really feel like if he hadn't cancelled that spine, if those Zerglings moved out a few seconds earlier, it actually would have helped Stephano, because he would have known to not cancel the spine. He wouldn't have panicked, and he would be up about 5 or 6 workers now, which would keep him at least on par with Nerchio. As it is, even though Nerchio committed to that pressure, he's up 5 workers, and even though his third base is only just now starting, that's fine for Nerchio. He's got more income coming in. He's overtaking Stephano more and more in the workers, and I overall got to say Nerchio's position is really good. He's still got full map control.
Yeah, King Arthur is not going to be going down that easily after putting on some of that aggression. We're just going to see him getting up his own evolution chamber, actually using some of these lings and saying, well, you don't really have that much DPS. I can knock down this evolution chamber. If you don't have a lot of lings behind this, you are going to have a really hard time dealing with everything. But looks like he's going to back off.
And it's just a few Zerglings, right? He's forcing a big overreaction here from Stephano. More and more evolution chambers going down and being cancelled. The whole point of Stephano's build is you're meant to be able to defend these sort of things so efficiently with that wall off, but Nerchio still ahead in the work account. And Stephano, interestingly, going for those melee upgrades. He's going to be going for a massive Zergling play, but I do fear that it might be a little bit too delayed here.
Yeah, Roach Warren is, of course, on the way for Nerchio. Is going to have some time to get out a big Roach count. And, of course, it's really going to come down a lot to where the engagement takes place. Because if you can get a full wraparound with those lings with +1 melee, you can really start to do some serious damage to those Roaches. But if you're really just in a big choke point, the lings have trouble, you're going up a ramp or something into the Roaches, it just turns into a massacre.
It's going to be interesting to see where this one goes from here. It is just range upgrades on the way there for Nerchio. Second Evo starting. This is something Nerchio does like to go for, those double upgrades in the Roach Wars. He's not a player who often rushes into Mutalisks off the Roach tech. And, you know, double upgrades against double Zergling upgrades is so good. It is just beautiful. Those Carapace upgrades are actually the most important thing. Until you get +2 range, +1 range gets cancelled out completely by the +1 armor. But if you get those Carapace upgrades, they're going to, you know, block the Zergling attacks. They're going to do very well there. And it's just going to generally be a very nice thing. And, oh, man.
Ooh, we see that the Overseer runs straight on over the Spire, getting a full scout on things at a very unfortunate time for Stephano. We'll see if he ends up still going with it. I mean, in the situation you're already committed to, do you feel like you just have to go for it at this point?
I mean, with his tech, he doesn't have any transition option.
Yeah.
You know, with this, you're going for this upgraded Zerglings. You're saying, I'm going to get Mutas out so you can't kill me with a Roach push. And then there's transitions into Ultralisks from here. You can go into all sorts of crazy things, sometimes even Swarm Host. In this case, it looks like he's just going to be going back into ranged upgrades and then going into Roaches himself, of course. And these Zerglings are just going to be something he keeps alive, and he looks to backstab with as much as possible. I mean, he really should have some of them down on Nerchio's side of the map, trying to break down those rocks. But you see, he's broken down his own rocks. He's trying to sneak around the Overlords and surprise Nerchio. The hard thing is he doesn't know where the Overlords of Nerchio are. So if he accidentally shows these Zerglings, Nerchio is just going to lock up the door, leave plenty of Roaches at home, and he'll be completely fine.
Yeah, lucky for Stephano, though. There really isn't a whole lot of Overlord coverage on the right-hand side of the map. Finally, the lings are going to get revealed, and the Roaches are here, but it's like we were talking about before. Where the engagement takes place is going to matter, and it seems like Nerchio is very much prepared at the front.
I feel like these, you know, just not enough information here for Stephano. He's going to try and duck through there. Takes a couple of nasty Baneling hits. He will get in the base, but there's so many Zerglings. He needs to kill a lot of drones for this to be worthwhile.
Well, he might be able to get a cancel on the 4th expansion just because Nerchio has pulled all of his units into the main base. A couple of Queens should be able to help deal with some of those Lings, but Nerchio, he's actually not really taking too much economic damage. He's having to pull drones all over the place, but we haven't really seen many workers go down.
Good cancel on the 4th. I mean, that's definitely a start. Stephano there finding damage. These are Zerglings. They're kind of cheap. He's got the Mutalisks out on the field now.
Oh, and only one worker killed off, but these Mutas, they've got to do some serious damage. We do have a decent number of Queens out over here for... Oh, no, sorry, wait a second. There's only one Queen left. Oh, did those Lings kill all the Queens off? There's only one Queen out for Nerchio.
Oh, yeah, actually. Not too bad there. Not a lot of anti-air. But these Mutas being forced back to deal with this Roach push. A lot of Roaches of Stephano are out now as well. These Mutalisks, though, not being microed properly. They're just killing the stragglers. They need to be up there on top of these Roaches doing the damage. There we go, though. Plenty of Roaches out for Stephano. He's almost got +2 Carapace finished as well. Stephano has a 4th base up in the back. Nerchio is still only on 3 bases. Stephano pulling out an odd style, but he's making it work right now.
Yeah, not finding a lot of luck in the early stages of ZvZ, but as it moves into the later stages of the game, he's able to turn things around. Going after that 4th expansion once again. Nerchio with the burrow play did salvage most of his Roach count, but doesn't even end up canceling the 4th expansion. That's going to be 300 minerals down the drain for a Zerg player that really wanted to have a good economy going.
Nerchio still with a little bit of map vision going, but that can be cleaned up as this goes on. does have a couple of Infestors coming out now and Hydralisks on the way, but this is not a Hive Tech army. So, you know, it's better than the Roach army of Stephano, but the Roaches and Ravagers can still win against this with the right positioning. Now there's, oh, we just got enough energy for Fungal there. The Hydra's coming in and doing big damage with the second Fungal as well. And these Mutas almost all going down, only a single one surviving. Really nice play there from Nerchio.
And that's such a difficult pill for Stephano to swallow. He did get a little bit of value out of those Mutas, but for the most part, that's a big investment that you really want to be able to keep alive, shut down Overlord vision, and of course, just be able to harass your opponent's armies. So it's really annoying to lose it, even if it isn't necessarily a game-ending thing. And Nerchio's starting to catch up in supplies, so a big engagement. If he takes a good one, which, let's be real, it's Nerchio, could still turn this around.
Yeah, he knows how to take engagements, my friend, and Stephano, I mean, he's got a good Roach army, but he's pretty much equal army supply. He's down in attack upgrade, and that's much more important than the Carapace. I mean, he's been up a base this whole time, which is great, but without many Ravagers in the mix, with no Hydras, it's going to be all about positioning in this engagement. Oh man, Stephano's actually split off a huge counterattack on the right-hand side. That is a lot of Roaches. It's Nerchio running home. He's realizing there's a risk of this. He might have even spotted it.
Oh, he does have a couple units back at home. Not enough to deal with the counterattack, but maybe enough to buy some time. Stephano, if he loses all of these Roaches, if he gets caught out of position because Nerchio catches him, then could be in a bit of trouble, but it looks like no, he's going to be able to pull back safely.
Nerchio's army's so scary. It's all together. It's such a big amount of Roaches and Hydras. Stephano really playing very risky here. Yeah, he realizes he can't wait for those to burrow move in. He needs to run them in right now. He's actually going to risk burrowing. There's so many units from Nerchio about to hit the front. He's got a massive army supply lead right here in this frontal army. And Stephano, he's not in position. He lets Nerchio get the concave. Nerchio jumps on top. He's even got the fungal there. Is Stephano going to eat it? Stephano eats the fungals. Oh my gosh. Hydras, Roaches, fungal landing all over Stephano's army. Nerchio so decisive. Stephano's finally unburrowing in these bases. Is that going to be enough?
He is doing a substantial amount of damage to the worker line, but Nerchio is inside of his opponent's third expansion. A couple of corrosive biles trying to land on this army for Nerchio, but not quite finding the big connections. I love the focus fire coming out over here from Nerchio, identifying the biggest fear right now is going to come from those Ravagers killing off too many of his own units. He will eventually be able to clean up those Roaches counterattacking him in his main base as natural, but for now, it's just about doing as much damage as possible.
I don't know if Stephano can clean this up, Ravi. There's just too many Roaches and Hydras here. I mean, Stephano took a big risk splitting off so many Roaches, but then to get caught without the concave, he took such a bad fight. And even though he rebuilt about 50 Roaches instantly, they were kind of popping out a few at a time, getting picked off. And these Roaches and Hydras, they are elite right now. Every single one of those Hydras, I guarantee you, has like 6 Roach kills apiece. Stephano is getting torn apart by this push. He just doesn't seem to have what's left needed to take care of it. Even though he's really damaged Nerchio's economy, he's lost almost everything at home, and I think that's going to be all she wrote.
Yeah, a couple more Roaches trying to come up with some sort of defense inside the main base of Stephano, but we see that Nerchio, I mean, the reason why it looks like he's even able to put up a fight right now is because Nerchio is just spread out across all the bases, killing off all these hatcheries, and once you take out the production, it doesn't matter if you have 50 or 300 drones pegged, because either way, you can't make any more units, even if you were mining.
And that's the story we're seeing here. Stephano, I mean, if he took that fight maybe on Nerchio's side of the map, maybe he has time to rebuild the Roaches, get them back together, but he was caught out of position, wasn't quite on top of that, and Nerchio just so decisive. He saw the opportunity, he pounced on it, and I mean, he even baited Stephano's army back into the fungal growth. He cleaned it up, he kept his army together, he didn't let it split up and get caught out piecemeal, and as a result, Nerchio, he's going to clean up this game. And I mean, we said it might be a couple of close matches. Nerchio said, nah, forces the GG out of Stephano, takes the clean 3-0 victory.
Yeah, he's going to be moving on to that round of 8, and King Archer again looking for, he's not going to stop at the round of 8. He is looking for first place. He wants to win DreamHack Valencia, WCS Valencia once again, returning for that title. We'll see if he can manage it, as he's going to be going up against potentially a Laser, a very strong Zerg. Of course, going to be facing off versus Haas before that. But we'll see what Nerchio has to say about all this as we hop onto the main stage. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, Nerchio. You're moving on to the round of 8. It was a very convincing 3-0 for you over Stephano. And I know that Stephano isn't the 2012 Stephano that we remember and like to look back on, but that being said, he has been practicing really hard. So did you expect that it would be this straightforward?
Not really. I mean, he's playing quite a lot, practicing a lot, so my matches against him on ladder are not the easiest as well. I mean, I win most of the time, but Stephano is never to be underestimated, so I didn't underestimate him and I did what I wanted.
Now let's talk about your WCS events this year. I know that at Austin, after your runner-up, Jönköping was sort of a disappointing event for you with only top 16. So how important was it for you to do better here?
Yeah, it's quite important. If I, went out early in this tournament, then other people would be catching up with WCS points. And well, my final goal is BlizzCon, and so far it's looking pretty good, I think.
And of course, your next match is going to be either a Laser or Haas. And your match history with the Laser is really interesting because you had this huge win streak against him for a while, and then it kind of flip-flopped in 2017. So what are your thoughts about him versus Haas?
I mean, Haas would definitely be an easier opponent, even though he's unpredictable. And in terms of Laser, well, in the past I was beating him all the time because he was just coming into the scene, and we met a lot in the tournaments. But these days, he caught up to everyone else, and he's a very good, very strong opponent. So it's not gonna be easy. Serral, Laser, I think top 1 and top 2, along with me, Zerg. So yeah, ZvZ against them is not gonna be easy.
All right, well, congratulations again. And with that, it'll be Nerchio moving on to the quarterfinals.
That's right, previously having 2,720 points, Nerchio bags himself even more, moving on into the round of 8. And I said it about a few series here at WCS Valencia, but that one seemed pretty clean-cut. Nerchio looking strong here against Stephano.
Yeah, it really was. I expected this one to be a lot closer than it actually was. Had a lot of faith in Stephano, but Nerchio is just showing us that, if you give him a finger, he's going to take the whole hand. Every single opportunity he saw, he jumped on it. This last game was definitely the closest one by far.
Yeah.
It really felt that Stephano was in an all right position, but then maybe got like a little carried away by trying to do too many things at once. Well, Nerchio's like, all right, I've got my entire army here. Jumped up on like the remaining army of Stephano, and then also killing that Evo before +2 is done. And then you kind of already know where the game is going.
Yeah, I mean, that's like just one of those final push type things you're trying to do, and it was a creative move, throwing the burrowed roaches all over, but that was very clean cut. It was a slaughter by Nerchio, and shows again the form that we expect him to be in, particularly in WCS this year, and kind of stacks up with the results that he's had so far.
It felt like Stephano's Game 3 plan was a good one, considering what he'd seen in Game 1 and 2. Complete the wall off, get yourself a Spire, try and establish some map control, but Nerchio's very well versed against that kind of style.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Game 1 and Game number 2, I'm actually shocked that Nerchio was able to get such a big advantage coming out of that Ling Bane phase. I mean, I think the first game pretty much ended with it, and Game number 2, well, pretty much was decided after that phase as well. Just too big of an advantage, and that is shocking to me. I mean, I know we're talking about Nerchio, I know we're talking about perhaps the most consistent player in Legacy of the Void since the game came out in the foreign scene, that is. But Stephano has really been putting in the hours lately. He's really been grinding. He's got the mechanics. He's been looking sharp. And for Nerchio to still get such a big edge, both games where you're both, you're working with the exact same material, right? Working with the same tools, Lings and Banes. That is really impressive. Like, I don't really know how he does it, how he outplays Stephano in those minor moments, but yeah, he was able to do it. And I agree with what you said about Game 3, but in the end, that advantage that Stephano created for himself still wasn't enough.
It's a good little warm-up for him for potentially facing off against the likely opponent in a Laser coming up, since as of late, the record for Nerchio hasn't been that great against a Laser.
Yeah. Should definitely be a tougher match. I think what Nerchio said makes sense. It would be surprising for Haas to actually win that series, as he had some pretty ugly matches earlier in the tournament. I think back just the series against Special, just flat on his face. But then again, Haas somehow, he did make it this far.
Yeah.
So he still has that ability to be the explosive player that kind of jumps out at you. But Nerchio's definitely getting ready for that ZvZ.
Right. If there was any wild card in this tournament, it's Haas. The wildest of cards.
It's going to be a lot of fun, but, like I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but I'm like, this is all really cool and all, but if you don't win with it, then it's like eventually I'm getting a little tired of it. But I mean, he made it to the top 16, and that's already an achievement, because making it past those group stages is not easy at all, especially all the good Europeans that show up at events like this. So I'm excited, don't get me wrong, but if I see 7 oracles every game, but he loses 0-3, I'm not leaving as a happy customer. I want to see more,
Oh yeah, he built 10 pylons and he lost again. Wow, great show, guys.
Well, so far a Zerg clean sweep here. 3 out of the 5 slots being taken by our Zergs, with the Laser looking to try and take that 4th one as well. But, I mean, looking at how the players have matched up there, it's pretty justified. Those are some world-class Zergs.
Yeah, that's what we always say, Colares.
I'm sticking with it. It's world-class Zergs. All right, we're going to take a break.
They are.
We're going to take a break. When we're back, more WCS Valencia as Haas is going to go up against the Laser.